Greetings, everyone. I'm excited to welcome Jeff Handy, COO and co-founder at Quality AI. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, great to have you here. So let's dive right in. Tell us a little bit about your background.
So, background about 7 years ago, a childhood friend and I and my brother started a company called Save Development. So, Save Development was built as an outsourced QA consultancy shop. So, very similar to like your outsourced development. I mean, obviously, you do outsource and fractional CFO work, but we outsource the QA process and the QA testing of an organization to great individuals in Nepal, Costa Rica, Belize, a few other countries. Our main hub, though, is in Nepal. And we chose Nepal because it was a country that was yearning for tech opportunities. And we felt like we could help provide those. The education system there is pretty amazing. And actually, graduates graduate knowing C++. And taking those people and giving them opportunities to be a tester for great companies here in the United States was a pretty natural fit. Grew that to about 100 employees. We're actually selling the company right now, which
Uh-huh.
is really exciting. But we learned a lot about quality assurance industry. So when you look at, the process of developing tech, you build the code, you test the code, then you deploy the code, you monitor the code. I mean, there's this whole software development lifecycle. And then within that, you're going to have specific sprints. You're going to have different, you know, methodologies for how you plan and prepare to begin to write code and then to review the code. And then it's a really complicated process. But one of the places it just keeps, chronically within organizations get slowed down is in QA, whether it's actually doing QA and it's slowing you down or you don't do QA and then it winds up with other issues for your customers. So we sought to alleviate that through having lower cost resources take care of those for you. But as AI has got further and further, we started paying attention to it and even started kicking around with this product a couple of years ago. When we first saw GPT-2, we thought to ourselves, wow, I think that this could generate test code. And through a very long process, now we're knocking on the door of a really big kind of general release, coming here for quality. But essentially where there's repeatable tasks and a lot of data is really where AI can live really well. And so quality, what it does is it learns your application from your users and then it creates your test code and is able to help manage it and update it so that you don't have to. So now developers can kind of bypass their traditional QA process and incorporate a tool to handle it for them. Pretty revolutionary way of thinking. That doesn't necessarily mean that QA completely goes away, but all of the manual work that you do for generating that test code, I'm sorry, taking too long, but here we go. All of that is taken over by our tool. And so I think very interesting, pretty exciting. We're super excited to be at this point. It's been a long time coming. So
Yeah, definitely. And appreciate that intro, Jeff. And let's back up a little bit. So you started, let's say, a services shop, right?
mhm.
And then I assume just out of that, you just saw, okay, we're doing this manual, we're hiring great talent, but is there a way? And it sounds like maybe was it GPT-2 that really you saw, hey, this we could actually automate a lot of this through AI and then
Yeah.
create it quality AI then.
Yeah, I mean, because Seva was really made as it was a for-profit company, but it was mainly to do a lot of good. And I think that we were able to accomplish some things with varying degrees of success there. But really where quality was is we just looked at the technology. It was about 5 years ago was the first time I'd ever heard AI in testing. And the companies that were doing it, though, it wasn't AI. It was like code complete. Like it was not even, or they just even used AI in their marketing bots. Like it was not AI. But when GPT-2 came out is when, Peter and I started looking at each other going, oh my gosh, I wonder if this could be a thing. Well, we really kind of had to wait and fail and try and do a whole lot of different things in the, kind of intervening 2 years to kind of set up the infrastructure that we have today in order to have our costs be a lot lower than any competitor and be a lot faster than any other competitor. Is certainly not just a GPT wrapper, but, not saying that there isn't places for, open source or other models that we have within our process. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I think that, for a lot of technology entrepreneurs, it can really help to have a deep background in a particular area. And then just ask yourself, where can technology actually help make this even better? And that's kind of where we were.
Now Quality AI, obviously an AI to automate, you said most of it, maybe not all, maybe there's some still, human touch there. But one thing you said, your app, it learns the app or the customer's app from the users. So tell me a little bit more about that. Is there code embedded where it just can see how end users are interacting with an application that then helps you, I don't know, write test script or something to automate the testing?
Yeah, Ben, I think you can come and sell our product. I mean, that's it. That's essentially what we do. Yeah. Lightweight JavaScript tag that monitors applications. I mean, very, very similar to like how Pendo or Aptitude or even Google Analytics would look at how, look at interactions and gathering that data. We gather that data and then we go through a really complicated, process of being able to turn those, into statistics and then into, test code. And to help make it not flaky or not to, have your test break easy, to try and help that process be a little bit more dynamic, because you can't just take one user flow and then have that be statistically significant enough in order to be flexible enough to incorporate a test case. All of that kind of under the hood stuff is where I think our magic sauce is. But yeah, how we get the information in the door, lightweight JavaScript tag.
Okay. Yeah, really interesting. So obviously you're SaaS targeting software tech companies with your product. And is there any niching down there? Tell me a little bit about your ICP for your product.
Today, right now, we're focused on front end test automation. We're coming out with some really cool tools for back end. But right now, if you have a web app, we can do it. We're kind of waiting a little bit on mobile. We're going to do back end first, because that kind of full service testing, I think it'll be the most powerful tool on the market for sure. It will be the default testing tool that exists. But then outside of that, getting into mobile and some of these other things kind of in the future roadmap that just gets us really excited, gets us out of bed.
Yeah, no,
Keeps us awake
yeah.
at night.
Yeah, that is exciting. And any threshold, like as far as team size of the dev team, or could it be a 2-person dev team, 100-person dev team? Is there any threshold where your product really kicks in and makes sense for that company to buy?
So not so much on the dev team size, but in terms of usage on the application, we typically like there to be, we want you to have users. Yes, we can just watch your staging environment and see what your developers are doing, but we all know that developers use your application, interact with your application differently than the customer does. So you wind up getting unnatural behavior that's generated. Now that's still helpful information to gather, which we do, but with having that only isolated, it can provide a pretty incomplete picture. So typically it's more on the usage side of things. So, as long as you have customers, typically will be a good fit for you. Where we start to see people really looking at quality is for very large teams, because man, they feel the pain and management cares a lot about, fast, they want faster deployments. Smaller teams as well, maybe before they've hired somebody in QA, that's another place where we shine. We can do any size of company, but where we found the most success selling is very large organizations and very small organizations. When you're around a 20-person developer organization, I think that, now we just need to look at your budget and be able to kind of work it out there. So, but really any size though.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. That's great. I love it. So what year did you found Quality?
So technically we founded Quality in 2021, 2 years ago. And Save Development was founded in 2016.
Okay. Okay, great. And then headquarters location or virtual?
So we do have a location. Obviously, we kind of started virtual, but we have a location here in Lehigh, Utah. We do still have distributed teams. We have team members in, Texas and on the East Coast. But yeah, we do like to be in the office a couple times a week. More than anything, I think it just helps us be faster. If we can get a little bit more done in meeting for a couple of hours in person than we could in 10 hours of being apart. It's just actually everybody likes it a little bit more. But we don't necessarily have mandates for people being in the office. Yeah. So essentially we people like to be in the office. We're not in the office all the time, but a couple days a week, it's nice for people to come in, to be at a big company lunch, introducing a new team member. So I think that's fun.
Okay, that's great. And what's your current team size?
So we're about 20 people right now. We're a mainly products, oriented team. So team of 20, but we're only starting to build out the go-to-market team, mainly because, we've been really gearing up to having our big product release. But yeah, so definitely more skewed to the dev team.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. And anything you want to share around ARR size, revenue range?
So, obviously with just, with kind of being in the process of launching, the one thing I will say is that we will probably wind up by first quarter of this upcoming year, based on some contracts, we're probably going to double the company size. And that is very exciting for us.
Uh,
So, and then at that point, I'd love to share more. Right now it's kind of like, that we have booked and we have build, but we have a lot of booked, but some people are, dependent on things. And so then we have people on the platform that aren't even built yet, that are still in free trials. And then we still have our alpha beta people that we're working through an extended free trial. So, it's kind of all over the show in terms of that, but that's kind of the nature of an early stage company.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And let's switch to the capital side. How much capital have you raised to date now?
So to date is just about 10 million. There is some venture debt in there as well, but primarily it's been equity.
Okay. Okay. About 10 million a day. And then tell us about that because I think you had, I think a recent, yeah, part of that was maybe classified as a seed round, we could say. And then, as far as raising maybe that latest round, I don't know if that was that 6.5 million seed round, but tell us, were there any triggers or milestones that said we're ready to raise that amount and raise a seed round?
The biggest trigger for us was being ready to go to market, or at least seeing the end zone for going to market. We wanted to try and get enough capital to be able to smartly deploy the second we knew what some of our triggers were for bringing customers on. And once we started to see that, we wanted to get good partners. We also were looking at the competitive landscape and we recognized that we're very leading the game. And we wanted to try and capitalize on that by, by trying to bring in all the good partners so they were invested in us and so that we could try and, and then they were investing in other people, was one aspect of that. And so I think for us, also, the macroeconomic environment is a little wild. I mean, certainly it was a very interesting time to taking a startup, especially of our stage or early stage you know, to the venture capital market to kind of advertise. I mean, it was a very weird time. But I do think that people resonated with the story that we're telling and the pain that we're solving. I think that Peter and I's backgrounds help give a little bit of confidence there. But I think that more than anything, our experience with AI up to this point is very helpful. So bottom line, the trigger was that we could see an opportunity to get drastically ahead of the game. Yes, we could totally keep bootstrapping like we did our first company, but I think that there's this element of pouring some gasoline on a fire that we wanted to do. And then also just we live in a weird macroeconomic environment. So, runway is always sensitive. We always want to try and be extending that out as much as we can while being sensitive to dilution. So yeah, hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, no, I love that. I appreciate that insight. And for other founders listening who may be contemplating a seed round, any lessons learned that come to mind with that 6.5 million raise?
I think, the biggest thing is that venture, everybody in venture is just trying to do their best job, and while you will face a lot of rejection, I just try and have a lot of empathy for what the venture scene is going through. Everybody's trying to find that right dance. And, the rejection is, certainly not a reflection of, some of the people that I thought for sure would invest in our company. They passed, but ultimately like they're having to do their job in their way. But the other thing is that if you're building a problem that needs to be solved, people will, resonate with that problem. You just need to find those people. For us, a lot of those people are in the Bay Area. There's some here, we have some great Utah investors that totally understand the problem, but we pitched a lot of people that don't know a lot about QA and some that don't care about QA and some that just have different theses. And so as you're looking at pitching people, just realizing that not everybody's a good fit or interested in what you're doing and that's totally okay. And if they're not getting it, totally okay. And then but if you are solving a problem, there are people out there. I think that it could have been easy for us to give up after literally months of going out there, but it only took one or two right introductions for us to find the people that were passionate about our problem. And then when we found those people, then it was so easy. And, we worked really hard to do the diligence process and we were done in a couple of weeks, essentially. So bottom line is like just being cognizant of the fact that like, if you're building a really interesting problem, it's about finding the right investors and that they're trying to do their job too. Right. So you're trying to find each other and that can be really hard. I mean, we did a lot of stuff. We worked through our networks. We worked through email, cold messages on LinkedIn, anybody that we thought could have some interest in our space. Like we tried to do that hard work and it was nice to find the right people, So anyways, and then just realizing that your board composition will determine a lot of what's going to happen to your company. So just being sensitive on who's on the board, but the humility a little bit to recognize that you can't do it alone. So
Mhm.
how's that for a bunch of really blanket advice?
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I mean, that's a popular one is just that founder investor fit. You're going to get a lot of no's, but then it'll resonate with some folks who believe in your vision and that problem. So yeah, appreciate that insight. And then Jeff, at this stage of the business, do you have a favorite number or metric that you're focused on to guide the business?
Right now, my favorite metric is number of people on the platform. Like regardless of pay status, people on the platform. The more feedback we're getting, the more analytics we're getting, the more conversations we're having is all helping our product be better. So personally, right? And I'm in a different part of the company, right? Like already we're seeing how complicated companies can be, but my number is people on the platform and using the platform. So, obviously like revenue is what we want, right? But revenue doesn't happen if people aren't on the platform. So
Yep. 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 Yeah, that makes sense. So Jeff, appreciate the insight as we wrap up here. What's coming up next for quality?
well, what's coming up next is a series of a couple of releases in terms of where the product's going that are going to really change the game. I mentioned, back end and mobile. I think that all those, by mid next year are going to be at least, if not here, then coming shortly. I think that some alterations to our pricing model, I think will be there, making it accessible to even more companies to try earlier on in the buying process. I think that will be very exciting. Uh, and Wow. I mean, just the core product that we have. I mean, I was getting a demo just earlier today of some of the things that is happening. I mean, geez, I mean, it is going to be the best platform that's out there. I just think that eventually where QA will be is QA will start turning into an asset instead of a liability for companies, like, and a true one. Right now it's just truly a cost leader, and you can't really like marry QA to any meaningful metric within inside your organization that says, oh, look, we're shipping products faster. But now I think it will actually be something that will unlock more products faster. So it'll actually become an accelerant instead of a roadblock and a stumbling block. And I think that will be here by this time in 3 months. I think that we're probably going to have that kind of product. Right now we have a very good product that helps you accelerate QA a little bit, but really seeing those things I think is going to be here in the next few months when we start to have that back end traces. Outside of that, we're adding some really good professionals to the team that kind of been there, done that can hopefully help us attract really good talent to help quality stay ahead of the game. So, I mean, bottom line, a few really great things, hoping we don't need to think about raising money for a very long time. When that time comes, we'll be ready. So only good things for the company, and just bringing on as many people as humanly possible into the quality platform.
That's great. Love that. And you mentioned pricing. Let's one last question before we wrap up here. Tell us a little bit about your pricing model.
So currently we build per engineer whose code we're testing. So a really popular way for companies to gather a lot of data like us is to build per like execution, or to build per when some action comes in that requires, a large amount of data to be processed. And the reason why they do that is because it's really easy for a company to tether their costs and then just, do a cost plus model essentially for how much you're using the platform. Well, that really disincentivizes somebody from using the platform, because they know that every single time they're engaging with the platform is costing them money. So what we've endeavored to do is to have a pricing model today. Granted, we're going to introduce a couple of other pricing models that work for different other situations. But right now today, a developer is tied to essentially a license. It's not, but it's essentially a license to where they can utilize quality essentially as much as they want. They can run the tests as much as they want. They can put it in their CI/CD process. They can do a whole lot. So that's essentially how we're wired right now. And people definitely respond well to it. Now we just want to try and be fitting a few other use cases that have come up, but that's how we're doing it today.
Okay. Yeah. Appreciate the insight. We know pricing definitely iterates, especially early stage SaaS, and it's probably never done, right? Pricing never done, always iterating. So appreciate that.
I'm feeling that big time. Yeah.
Well, Jeff, really appreciate your insight and sharing your experience today. And if listeners would like to learn more about quality, where should we send them online?
The best thing to do is to go to my LinkedIn and to connect with me. So just Jeff Handy on LinkedIn. I looked at my LinkedIn every day, just connect with me, send me a message, and let's please have a conversation. If not, obviously you can go to Qualiti AI and sign up for a demo. So yeah,
Okay.
either one of those ways is great.
Well, perfect. Well, check out Jeff on LinkedIn, or go to quality.ai with an I at the end of quality to learn more about what Jeff and his team is doing. So Jeff, really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Ben. It's been fun.
Thanks.